Welcome to the Football Show on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. I'm Peter Martin, Alan Ruff, Alison, McConnell and Tom McManus here with me in the studio. Delighted to have your company. Thank you very much for joining us, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you want additional content and of course giveaways, competitions, the lot. Then you can hit PLZ Premium on the YouTube channel and subscribe there, and you'll get lots of additional content and lots of prizes, giving away lots of things this week. And here's just a flavour of the competition for this week, and it's very simple how you enter. This week's competition on PLZ Premium is fairly straightforward. You get the chance to win one of these fabulous Maestro tops in red, blue, green or black. It's ideal for a bit of leisure wear, golf, training, you name it. It looks cool. If you're supporting your favourite team, it might be in your favourite colours. And we'll also throw in a chance for you to get one of these fabulous posters with legends of the game with their legendary numbers as well. Good competition, great chance to win your favourite Maestro top and some legends thrown in for good measure. Good luck, sign up to PLZ Premium, you're in the hat, and we'll pick out one lucky winner. It could be you. Could indeed be you. Good luck with that, and we'll give you details of some of the people who've been winning on our PLZ Premium site. Lots to talk about, and might as well start, Ali, because the two boys here clearly think that they're going to be gloating about some kind of connection between Celtic supporters and the board, and quite simply at 8:42 on Saturday night. The board released a statement, which again, if you want to have a look, here are the key points that the board was talking about. Inaccurate media information has led to Celtic supporters demanding clarity. Must adhere to self-sustaining model to preserve future of the club and comply with UEFA regulations. The club's cash reserve is not relevant when it comes to these UEFA guidelines. The ability to sign players not conditional on Champions League qualification. It's a clear goal to make signings as early as possible, but factors out with the club's control can affect it, and Celtic will always continue to review and seek to improve the strategy and execution. Well, there you are. That's a statement that came out, and it caused all sorts of anger at the time, and over and above that, not only anger, but there was never going to be somebody facing up, answering questions, which is what we suggested.
Yeah, no, I think it's a statement that was entirely tone deaf to the mood among the support, and in actual fact I think it would have had directly the opposite effect than what they wanted. Rather than pour calm on troubled waters, I think what it did was take a flamethrower to it. I think what you have is a support now that feel entirely unified in their anger against the board, and part of that anger comes down to a failure to listen to the points that they've made, a failure to take on board the frustrations that they have felt. And I think it probably goes deeper than just one window, and it goes way beyond just this summer and the discontent that has brewed this summer, but rather goes back quite significantly. And the fact that this seems to be a perennial problem for Celtic when it comes to investment, to recycling the squad, allowing players to leave and then having a plan for players to come in, to be preparing early, particularly on a year like this year where you have a Champions League qualifier, to play and negotiate at a very early point in the campaign. And I think the statement, it missed its mark entirely. I think it did nothing other than aggravate an already angry support.
Well, you're right there, because the Celtic Supporters Association then released a statement which was just blatantly a vote of no confidence. Following on from our meeting on Friday with Michael Nicholson and other representatives of Celtic, we convened a meeting today of our member branches to give a report on the aforementioned meeting. The member branches were dissatisfied with the answers to our questions and as a consequence have decided to place a vote of no confidence on the board of Celtic Football Club. So, a weekend that was messy, to say the very least, Tam.
Yeah, it was, and I just thought the statement was a little bit patronising as well with the Celtic support, Peter. I think that when me and Raphael spoke about it, we felt they had to come out and say something. They did, but I don't think it was the answers that the Celtic fans were looking for, Peter. And that's just, it was just claptrap for me reading it. It gave no answers to anyone, the questions that were answered. So I think the Celtic supporters will be really, really angry at the statement. As I said, it was pretty pointless putting it out at that time at night as well. An international break, they knew exactly what they were doing. So the Celtic supporters are not going to get the wool pulled over their eyes any longer, Peter. And I think we've heard it before in years gone by that Celtic supporters, not happy with things. But there's something different about this time, I think. And I think there will be actually. Listen, you know as well as anyone, Peter, the Celtic board are not going to be shifted from the control that they gain. But I sense a coming together of the Celtic supporters associations to try and make something happen.
Ruffy, I have to applaud the Celtic supporters, especially all the member associations who've got together and put out this statement. I applaud them because obviously they've witnessed over a long period of time, just a repetitive, it's like a rinse and repeat of how the blueprint is in place. It hasn't changed since, for me, 2004. When Martin O'Neill was told to rein it in. But then from there, it's been, and I think you've got to offer a balance here, it's been a well-oiled machine of banking people and accountants who have turned Celtic into a really profitable club. Now, that in itself is to be commended, and I think a lot of Celtic supporters acknowledge that. But you can't keep on stashing the cash with no ambition for essentially what the game's about, which is football, which is trying to achieve things on a football field, to entertain, to achieve, to win silverware, to go as far as you possibly can, to recruit players, to get fans excited by the recruitment of those players, not to leave them flat as a pancake with the hope of something and then deliver nothing.
Yeah, the signing's been an absolute shambles. Everything everybody said is correct. It's been going on for far too long. Unfortunately, the board get away with it occasionally when Celtic do well in the Champions League. The fans are happy, they're there. Everything gets shoved to the side. But when you don't qualify and you don't get the signings in that the fans are paying their money, then you've got to be answered to that. And the statement, as Tam said, was a load of rubbish. Apart from the bit describing about how difficult it is to bring players in, blah, blah, blah. I get that, but I don't get any of the other stuff. And if I was a supporter, I'd be seriously miffed as well.
How do you think other clubs do it, Ruffy?
Again, that's a big question, but they're saying that the targets they're meeting are very difficult to get over the line. You just got to believe that or not believe it,
Every year.
The negotiations, well, they get some, and they got Engels in, they got other people in, they've worked really well in the Japanese market. But no, they've failed. I'm not sticking around, I'm just saying they failed miserably this year. They've got a lot to answer for this year because it has been an absolute shambles.
Peter, the figures are going to come out in mid-September, Celtic, from last season, and you're going to see a Celtic football club with 90 to 100 million pound in the bank, and they're scrambling about in the last couple of hours for free transfers on the last day of the transfer window. It cannot happen. And that's what the Celtic supporters are raging about, and I totally get that. That cannot happen.
I think it points to a failed campaign last year. He has a move so far down the line that he has agreed personal terms that is blocked in the final hours of the transfer window because the club can't source a replacement. That does 4 is a different set of circumstances. At that point in time, the club were making a pitch. That was on the back of a season where they had just got to the UEFA Cup final.
Yeah.
You knew what it was. It was like players are...
So that they have seen over a 10-year period is this constant wait to the last minute and the deals. The only time that it changed was because Celtic made a back end of the Eddie Howe deal, had to get a replacement in quickly in Ange Postecoglou, and Ange Postecoglou was able to say, I want these players that I've targeted in quickly. And the whole backdrop to this changed where he was able to get players in quickly. But the minute that changed again, it again went back to what it had gone before.
Yeah, I think the unfortunate thing is the board have got away with murder because obviously, unfortunately, Rangers were in their state, so they'd bought into winning everything, trebles, doubles, everything. You know, the fans have bought into it as well. As long as we're so far ahead of Rangers, we're winning all these cups, we're getting a wee taste in Europe, we're loving it. And now Brendan Rodgers comes back and says, I just want to take the club further in European football. And unfortunately for the board, the fans have now bought into it as well. They want to be better. They want to be in the Champions League. They want to be in the group stages. It's not cleared up for me, the mess yet, of what their philosophy is and how they operate in the signing process. Nobody's cleared that up at all. Brendan Rodgers hasn't cleared that up at all. If Brendan Rodgers comes out and, as I said, if he said, look, I gave the board 10 players. If he comes out and says, it's not my fault I never got them, it's theirs. They have to then come out and explain. They've hung a bit, given some kind of excuse to why they can't get players over the line. But I would think at this moment, Brendan Rodgers has gone absolutely mental.
I think earlier today, Ali, you caught up with Jeanette Finlay, who is the assistant
Vice Chair of the Celtic Trust.
Yeah, this is what she had to say on this whole affair.
The Celtic Trust in particular has for a very long time been saying the way the corporate governance at Celtic Park is not good enough. The kinds of things that I mentioned, independent directors who really know independent, things going on behind closed doors, really contempt for the fans, contempt, the kinds of answers they're giving are just embarrassing and insulting. So that we have been saying this for a very long time. We don't like the fact that Celtic's a PLC, but while it's a PLC, they should at least be operating to the gold standard of corporate governance, and they most certainly are not doing that. So if you want to keep telling us about how great you are with your balance sheet and all of that, most of which, fans are realistic. They're happy to accept that the business has to be run, the club has to be run in a financially sustainable fashion. But there's a difference between that and having very limited ambitions. Very, very limited ambitions. And for a club like Celtic, that's just not sustainable for us. So if you want fans to keep coming through the doors, if you want fans to be on board and so on, then you have to offer us more than that. Everything needs to be reset because there's a kind of a siege mentality. It's like them against us, and it absolutely should not be like that. And if it continues like that, that's not good. It's no good for the fans, no good for the team, it's no good for the board. So somebody has to take this by the scruff of the neck and say, we need to reset our relationship with the principal source of the money, even if they're not doing it for the right reasons, which is, our shared love of Celtic Football Club. They should be doing it for their own self-interest.
Well, what do you make of that, Tom?
Yeah, I think she's hit the nail on the head there, Jeanette. I think that there seems to be a divide between the board and the supporters at the minute, and that's not healthy for anyone at Celtic Football Club. They've got a Rangers team who have spent a lot of money for the first time in a wee while, and they're going to be a threat to them, and they need to step up. And if cracks start to appear on the pitch and cracks start to appear off the pitch, then they could lose the league this season, Celtic. There's no doubt about that for me. So they've got to come together. Somebody's got to come out, put their head above the parapet and put out a better statement than the one they've just done, Peter. Whether that's speaking to a media company, whether that's doing something with one-to-one, I don't know, but that's not going to hack it. That statement they put out Saturday night, and the supporters are not going to buy it.
Do you get a sense that the supporters want a change of board, change of ownership, or do you get a sense that they just want a greater say and a change and a fresh approach?
I think in an ideal world just now, I think the climate among the support is ripe for a change. I think there's an element I think, who feel as though the board has got very stale, that the club has got stale, and I think there would be an appetite for change. I also think, however, that is tinged with a realism too, that an appreciation that wholesale changes are actually very, very difficult to enact, given the structure of the club and how change comes about with those who govern the club. So I think at the minute they would be willing to accept a change in structure. I think they would be willing to accept certain elements that might give them a greater say in the running of the club. And I think a lot of the frustration stems from the fact that they feel as though they have been ignored, that their wishes have been ignored, that the identity of the club in some aspects has been ignored, but crucially how they want the club to go forward has been ignored.
I don't know if you noticed, Ali, I got an email in from somebody who said, any chance you could stop interrupting Ali when she's chatting? You know, sometimes she's making a statement, so I'll let you have your full... I'll let you have your full say there. And somebody says, God, the Wi-Fi's a wee bit dodgy. They'll do anything to interrupt Ali. And I said, you can't win.
Sabotaged.
Absolutely. That's exactly the word to use, sabotaged. Stephen Ray says, Celtic Football Club doesn't exist to provide bankers and accountants with profits. Those profits exist to provide the management with the best football team to compete on all levels. And I think a lot of people, certainly a lot of people on the feed, and my apologies just for a slight dropout on the Wi-Fi, but I think a lot of people are looking at the whole situation and they want... I'm standing by what I said on Friday, Ruffy. I don't care what you guys are talking about from a statement. The statement means nothing. There will be no... The only thing that's happening right now for me is the Celtic board are now looking and saying, okay, let's get this into a damage limitation and see how we can engineer a way out of it, you know, to pacify the support by making some token gesture, because they're not moving, they'll not leave, they won't give up power, they're not going anywhere. What they will do is say, okay, let's give you a regular monthly fan advisory board, because they will not be allowed inside that boardroom. No. There is not a catch chance in hell. Jeanette Finlay has been battling with that for the last 20, 30 years of her life. That's not going to happen. I think, you know, ultimately, I think a lot of Celtic fans would love change, but it isn't going to happen. Nobody is giving up power. And that's the thing that's stuck with me for such a long time. They have been so used to being powerful that they will swat away anybody who gets in their way.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate thing about it. You would like to think with the fans coming out, I'm saying a lesson learned. We need to buck our ideas up, but we won't know if they will change until January, until they see what players need to come in the door then and whether they get their act together and players do come through. But you're right, I mean, the fans will probably boycott, they'll do something, but as we know in football, things just move on. You know, it's been a warning to the board that you better get your act together because we're not putting up with it, you know, and then we'll see what happens.
What's we're not putting up with it though? I mean, not buying tickets?
Well, we've seen them protesting before, shutting down the brigade and shutting down the top tier and that kind of thing, but at the end of the day, it's, as you say, it's not going to change the board. The board are going to continue. You're just going to hope that the board have said, okay, for whatever reason, the way we're operating isn't happy, the fans aren't happy with, and you've got to hope that they make some kind of change.
I don't know
what the change is. I don't. Yeah. What the point I'm making, we know what we're blaming them for not acting properly in the transfer market. That is the main thing at this precise moment in time. Why? I just would like to know why. I mean, we're now in the question: are they doing it because they want to keep the money? They don't want to spend the money? Are they just being neglected? Are they just? I know that's what I'm saying. You know, but
the idea that's to do with financial fair play rules is laughable. I think when you look at the resources and the income coming in, that you should still be able to compete in the transfer market and bring in players, recruit players. You should never be coming out of a transfer window weaker than when you're going into it.
Can I just at this point throw something to you, Ali, which I think is the core of the problem, is I think there is a genuine lack of ambition because they're driven by figures. They are essentially accountants and bankers. So they're driven by a man who, this is not his main source of income. Dermot Desmond, who's got control and a major say, he might not have the overall major shares, he might have more control than he should have. But he looks at this as a business. It's not his main business, but he looks at it and said, this is the tight controls we're going to operate here. And this is how we're going to go about this strategy. And that strategy has been in place for a long time. I think there's a lack of ambition of trying to meet the fans' expectations on the park. That's one. The second part of it, which I think is absolutely crucial, is the fact that with the spending that they go through, whether it's late or whether it's early or whatever, the other thing that really angers Celtic fans is the fact that they do not buy, the players, the quality of players that they think would show a little bit of ambition to take them to a level. They see a Kyogo going out, they see him not being replaced. They think they're being taken for mugs. And they've seen that regularly over a long period. We tried to get him, we couldn't get him. He was waiting for other options. He wanted too much money, it was too expensive. We're not going to pay that sort of money. Meanwhile, the cash keeps going up in the register inside their bank balance. And everybody now is looking and saying, lack of ambition, the way you go about your business in the transfer market, when the manager wants 2 or 3 bits of quality, what do? You signed 7 players that he didn't highlight at the start of the summer transfer window.
And I think 2 or 3 of them's not even in his Europa League squad.
Which tells you the story
It's
of...
not his signing. They're not his signing.
I think the problem comes down to 2 things. I think there are 2 major issues. One is transparency and one is how the club goes about its recruitment process. I think those are 2 massive points of frustration and irritation among the fan support.
What is transparency, Ali? What is transparency?
Well, tell people what the strategy is. What is the recruitment process? Who has final say on transfers coming in? Because this summer you have clearly seen that the manager has players that he didn't want. It's exceptionally clear by the
all this as well. Where is he in this?
By the conversations and by the comments that Brendan Rodgers made about specific players, and then in that European squad list, that would tell you that he's not signed them. So I think there would be some transparency or some wish for transparency in terms of this is how we approach transfers, this is what the strategy is, we're going to stick to it. I hear your point about the lack of ambition. I don't know if it's entirely fair, and what I'll say is Celtic were within a whisker of progressing past Bayern Munich, and with that you think, had they brought in a replacement for Kyogo, now again that was your very first indication that the manager was frustrated all the way back in January, because that weekend as Kyogo was leaving, and it was no secret to anyone that Kyogo was leaving because he had also wished to leave in the previous summer window and didn't. It was really clear that he would go in January. So again, no secret. But the manager sat at Fir Park and said, I'm fairly confident, or words to that effect, that there is going to be a replacement coming in because he's gone out. Had he get the replacement, and if you go through, you would be billing it as a fantastic season, you go and progress and take a huge scalp in the Champions League, that the club is moving in the right direction. So I think there are fairly fine lines between your perception of what's been hugely successful and what's been a failure. I think there are fine lines to draw in there. What is inarguable rather is that this summer's window has been a catastrophic failure, because there has been no sense of being able to go and strengthen your hand and go again, to reset and go again and try and have that same level of assault. I think there has to be realism about where Celtic are, of the revenue that they bring in, of the league that they play in, about the current coefficient, which is going to make it difficult across the next 4 or 5 seasons to compete in Champions League and to bring money in. I think you do have to have a realistic strategy. However, you should be able to go and recruit players that still are within a ballpark of bringing in some quality.
I disagree with you, Ali, and I disagree with you on the point that over the period since 2004, since Dermot Desmond eventually said, with Peter Lawwell, rein it in. Since then, out with Rangers winning the league and then going into the Champions League, Celtic have failed to get to group stages on 10 or 11 occasions. They've managed to qualify on 3 occasions, plus of course this one with Brendan is the 4th, to a knockout phase over that period. And basically the Celtic fans have watched in that period a number of players that apparently they were going to sign that it fell through at the last minute. Late signings consistently in windows, not only January, but in the summer window. And lots of excuses. And the same rhetoric that was fired out on Saturday night has been fired out time and time again. And the reason I know is because I had to work in the news desks and chase these stories and listen to these press releases and watch the Celtic side sign players, lots of players. Some of them, and by the way, the balance is they are a board that deserves credit for making it a profitable club, but the fans, they want that money spent they want the money spent better than it's spent at the moment. They want a different strategy in the way it's spent. They want something in early, they want players of a certain quality, and they don't buy into the narrative that you can't achieve anything. They're not saying spend 10 million, we want to get to the Champions League final, but they want to dine at that table because they're paying top drawer. And they want better signings, and they don't want to be fed year in, year out, the same excuses. And, of course, this whole situation of, which was highlighted on Saturday, we know better than you. This is why we're doing it, and this is what we'll continue to do.
Yeah, I think there's a patronising element to this statement. I think you needed someone to say, whoever that came from, and my own feeling would suggest it came from the very, very top, but you kind of need someone to say, you've got to read the room here. This is not landing well. But I think so many of the feelings come down to not having a modern recruitment department almost. It just seems from the outset, it feels very amateurish. It doesn't seem in keeping or in step with what a modern club like Celtic and where it is financially should be. It doesn't seem to have the layers of professionalism that other clubs do.
I think they've been very fortunate in the last 3 or 4 years that they have had some good buys and sell-ons, and the Japanese boys were a great deal. You know, O'Reilly was a great deal, you know, Jota was a great deal. And when you get all these good deals, sometimes maybe you go say, oh, well, maybe we just keep doing that. It's okay you keep doing it if you win games and you win the big games. But that's stopped now, so you've got to change your attitude and where you're dealing with and who you're bringing in.
Well, the manager said he didn't want to stand still. And
The manager was asked at a press conference, is there any players coming in at the weekend? I don't know. That was his answer, I don't know. There's a lack somewhere of communication between players coming in, players going out, and who's dealing with it.
There's a number of managers who've had the ambition to take it on. And by the way, you might say rein it in, and I think the Celtic board were, and I think they deserve credit for being able to obviously try and get some players out who are on big wages that was unsustainable. But I think a lot of the Celtic fans have backed them. There was 80,000 people in Seville, Tam. It's not as if you were going back to the years of 1994. There was 80,000 in Seville. You were watching a league where the two of them were going hell for leather and winning it by a point or a goal. So it was competitive.
But Celtic had to spend money then to keep up with Rangers.
Absolutely.
They don't need to do it now, and I think that's an issue.
I think Ali
don't have to do it now.
Wanted something where from 2012 onwards, after 2012, they were able to duck and dive and just say, well, we don't need to do that.
We just need to finish above one team here, and that'll satisfy the Celtic supporters. We'll keep them caring about Europe. We'll just bank the European money. We'll spend a wee bit of money here and there. Rangers are a basket case. We'll just do enough to stay ahead of them. But I don't think they're going to get away with it this season, Peter.
Yeah.
I don't think they'll get away with it because Rangers, I think, will get their act together at some point, and it might be this season. And if they do this season, and if they go on a run of games, and Celtic lose a couple, you think it's bad just now. If Celtic start drifting down the table and Rangers get their act together and all of a sudden there's a title race and Celtic have not spent any money this window, there'll be more protests than you've ever seen before in your life. So, listen, I totally agree. Back in the day, Celtic had to spend because Rangers were spending and it was neck and neck. And Celtic have got complacent over the last few years because Rangers have been nowhere and they've been a bit of a basket case. But I don't think that's going to be. I don't think they'll get away with it this year. This has got echoes of the COVID season for me. This season, it's eerily similar. I think there's a lot going off the pitch at Celtic that's not in the Celtic supporters' eyes. It's not good enough, and they might pay the price this season, Peter. They might not. They might get away with it, But Celtic shouldn't be getting away with the advantage they've got financially over Rangers.
And of course, another thing that irked a lot of people, Ali, and I say fair play to the journalist who actually delivered the story, but when you start hearing insiders starting to, have
Brief against the manager.
Well, it was a blatant brief against the manager. I think that really irked the supporters and got their back up as well. For me, patting the back to the journal, wherever he got his information, good luck to you, but it didn't work.
No, I completely agree. I think it paints a picture of just outright civil war behind the scenes. I think when you have that level of unrest and this, you have a manager who sat at a press conference a week before and said, and I'll paraphrase here, but said, we're all united. This is a board that bleeds for the club and all the rest of it, and paints a picture of unity. And then you have a story that comes out that suggests that the Celtic board think their manager might be working his ticket. Well, that's completely out of line with what the manager's saying about this idea, this perception of unity. I think it points to significant unrest and breakdown of relationship behind the scenes, breakdown of trust with key figures behind the scenes. And I think there is a real danger that in amongst all that chaos and noise, that it drifts onto the pitch, that you see it then take effect in games.
It's a big question, Ali, and I don't know if you've got the answer, but obviously since that has emerged from inside Celtic Park that the manager might be working his ticket, do you think I should phone them and bar them for this and what the conduct that they've been involved in? Because, it brings back memories of somebody who obviously had written a similar column, and we're still on a 2-year ban. We're heading in.
Peter's just tagged another 10 year onto his.
We're heading into a third year. Should I phone their head of PR and say, I'm not happy with your mole from within inside Celtic Park, and I want to tell you right now that you're barred from even consulting with PLZ, because at the end of the day, what they have done and what they do and what they are doing as a powerful board is swatting away and trying to bar people from telling the truth. And and that is it in a nutshell. They want to get on with their business and they will see nobody in their way. I personally think they've shown a complete lack of ambition. They've been able to peddle a narrative that they can't compete and they can't go and buy players at the right time. And over a long period of time, they were able to get away with it. They're not able to get away with it now. And when I hear Jeanette Finlay and lots of Celtic supporters coming out and saying, we've heard this year in, year out, constantly, and you've almost got 100 million in the bank, I'm sorry, the game's up. But me personally, I think nothing will change, Ruffy. I think they'll come out with a damage limitation, what I call a PR stint, where they will say, we'll give you this, now shut up, and we're going to continue on our merry way.
Yeah, and unfortunately the supporters are hoping as individual people that they might say, we've got this wrong. No, they might get the message.
Humility?
No, you might get the message and say, well, maybe we're going about it the right way. The supporters have let us know that we are going about it the right way. Maybe we should change. But they're saying they won't. But if you're getting that amount of stick and you're, as an individual and a person, you're getting blamed for it. You are getting blamed for this, you 3 or 4 or whatever. You would like to think, as being football people, they would say, right, maybe we have to change this, the way we operate.
I think what's really interesting in terms of optics and change of perception now is that if Brendan Rodgers were to turn around and say, I can't continue, I'm going to go, that Celtic fans this time round would back him hugely. That there would be a real groundswell of anger towards the board because the perception would be you didn't back him, you didn't give him what he needed. I think right now, I don't think he will, just for what it's worth, I don't think he will.
I don't think he's
There's a contract there, I don't think he would walk out on it. However, had he to come to that conclusion just now, I think you would find that the majority of Celtic fans would back him. I don't think you would see anywhere near the reaction that you did 3 years ago.
The board have taken all the pressure off of Brendan this season.
Yeah, the one thing I do disagree with you on, Tam, though, is Celtic at the moment, and this is where we flip and now switch our attention to Rangers on this, because I can't see anything other than if Brendan stays, I don't think he'll leave. It's my personal opinion. I think he'll stay, and I think Celtic will win the league. I just do not see Brendan Rodgers being beaten by Russell Martin, because Russell Martin...
But there is an element of doubt now, Peter. You can't say that for certain, can you? I think the last 2 or 3 seasons you could have said for certain Celtic would win the league.
Well, Tam, give me the evidence of what you're witnessing at Rangers. The Rangers fans are looking and saying, I don't want that manager. They came out of an Old Firm game with no shots against Celtic. They were, before the game...
But they've strengthened their squad, Peter. Celtic haven't.
Before the game, they wanted him out the door.
They do.
If he'd lost a goal in that game at Ibrox, they'd have been battering down the marble staircases saying he's got to go. And now you've got an international break, Hearts come calling at Ibrox, and he's got to get Raskin back on side, and he's got to show the Rangers fans, and this switches the attention here, because never have I witnessed a situation where there's going to be a title race and the two sets of fans absolutely are raging about the whole thing. But there's Rangers fans out there looking saying, Russell Martin is not the man for the job.
But I get that, Peter, but what I'm saying is if Rangers can go on a run of form, just go on win 2 or 3 games in a trot, I think the momentum will start to build, because I think they've strengthened their squad, they've strengthened their team. Celtic are weakened. So for the first time, I said to you, if you'd asked me last 2 or 3 seasons, start of season, Celtic 15, 20 points, there you go, there's your bet. Now, I don't see that, Peter. I don't see Celtic winning the league by double figures.
Do you see Celtic winning the league?
I think they'll probably just win the league, Peter, but there shouldn't be a just, is what I'm trying to say. Because with the financial strength that Celtic have over Rangers, they should be blowing them away, but they're not. They're letting them back in the door for me.
Ruffy?
Celtic will spend 50 million in January and just get it over the line.
They'll spend money in January if Rangers are ahead of them.
They won't spend.
Absolutely.
Why
They will spend money in January, you know, but Russell Martin, he's had his players in, he's not showed me anything against the 4 games. They've not won 4 games in the league. You know, I do think the 2 new wide men with Celtic coming in, we'll wait and see what the striker's like. If Johnson comes back, they're not that far away from what they were. They just need a couple of the players to up their game a wee bit, and I still think that as a pool, I think they're stronger than Rangers.
Well, what about the... And listen, I am playing devil's advocate in this, because quite simply, I think, you know, we've given quite a considerable amount of time, tried to offer balance in the whole Celtic situation with regards to the board, their prudence, the fact that they have been able to turn the club into one of the most profitable clubs, but that's not what the issue is about. And I think we've offered that. The flip side of it all now is quite simply when you do have competition. The competition for me is Rangers. I'd love to see Hibs and Hearts and a Dundee United. I certainly don't see it from Aberdeen, but that's just my opinion. But I can see them maybe taking the odd scalp here and there. But, you know, I think everybody's looking at Rangers and thinking, is he the man? Can he get them going? They've spent a bit of money. They've backed him. And I do think they're going to stick with him.
Yeah, I think everything points to that just now. Certainly... judging by Kevin Thelwell's remarks, you would think it's a long-term project, that they're firmly aligned to him. However, again, we've spoken about this before, having a theory and having a strategy is great until it's tested, and it's been tested across 4 draws in the first 4 league games, and now you're going in to 2 pretty tough games in the next couple of weeks. You've got Hearts on Saturday at Ibrox, then you've got Hibs in the Cup. If Rangers weren't to prevail in those games, the noise just continues to build and questions continue to be asked. To go back to your point about whether or not they're capable of going and asking questions of Celtic, I think right now that Celtic's biggest threat is Celtic. They're their biggest threat to themselves with all the infighting and all the noise that's going round about it. I agree with Tam. They should be out of sight. When you have that financial strength, they should have been able to kick on and accelerate away from Rangers, or at least go and invest in the squad and have options, have depth that right now they don't. And you say you don't see the evidence that Rangers are capable of mustering a consistent challenge across the course of the campaign, and right now you would have to say that's true. You might see a different Rangers with the window closing. There's a problem with Nico Raskin that has to be addressed. You would think now it's in everyone's best interest to get him back into the team, to iron out whatever issues have clearly been there, and get him back into the middle of the park, because he was clearly their best player in the latter half of the campaign. But at some point, you would think Rangers will get better. They should start to piece together some kind of run of form. If Celtic were to go to Rugby Park on Sunday and not take 3 points, the noise just ramps up again this weekend.
Yeah, I think the other thing that's come off the back of this, Ruffy, which has really accelerated the anger, is quite simply, I agree with you, Celtic's biggest enemy is Celtic. They have actually been guilty of it before, in allowing Rangers to mount a challenge and go past them, when Peter Lawwell was the chief executive of the club, and they just allowed Rangers to get a march on them and again imploded at that point. So it's not as if it's a unique situation. Celtic fans have seen that all before. I think the biggest thing that really has annoyed people and has accelerated the protest, Ruffy, is quite simply the calibre of side they've just been knocked out by when they wanted to be in the Champions League. The Celtic fans have put their hard-earned money. They're buying strips that are third ranges, you name it. They've put their money in. They're paying 800 quid for season tickets with a 10,000, waiting list behind them. They're buying everything you could possibly imagine, and they wanted to play in the Champions League.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. The success they've had in the 2 or 3 years in the Champions League, the nights at Parkhead with the lights and everything, they bought into that, they bought all the tickets, they bought everything, but like every fan at every club, you want to see your team progressing. The reason Brendan Rodgers came back was to progress in Europe, and the fans have now seen that this isn't the case, not the way they're operating, so they're obviously upset, and quite rightly so.
I just think you can't keep asset stripping your squad, Peter. I look at Celtic's squad. Adam Ida, £7 million, sell him and sign a free transfer. Rangers have just spent £13 million on 2 strikers. Celtic have got a free for Seville. So you're right, it is Celtic. I think Rangers will get better, but Celtic will ultimately beat themselves this season if they do lose the league. And it will go back to this window. This will be the start of it, the decline at Celtic if they don't go and win the league. We're doing the ability and the transfer that they've done in this window for me.
Yeah, over and above that, I think the other clubs you're hoping will get better, but whether that's enough to even, lay a glove on the big two is another matter. Do you see anybody?
Probably Hearts is your best bet, Peter, but we'll know that next week. Yeah. I think that's an enormous game. Them going to Ibrox. There's been a lot of hype about Hearts this season. There really has, with Tony Bloom coming in. Very successful businessman. He's been successful in everything he's touched. And listen, Brighton, great example of that. If he does the same at Hearts, then we might have a title race with Hearts. But if they go to Ibrox and Rangers turn them over 2 or 3, you'll just be thinking, it was all bluff. They've no substance. But we'll just have to wait and see what happens at the weekend. But if Hearts can go there and even get a point, then they might just stick around for the rest of the season. Yeah,
it's an interesting one. Raskin, I think, is an easily resolved situation. Ali, come back. Okay, we've had our differences. You need to show a bit of humility. I'll show a bit. You're here for 6-7 months. Come on, get the jersey on and let us battle on.
Without doubt, without question. It makes no sense. It's cutting your nose off to spite your face. I think clearly there have been differences between the player and the manager. I think maybe the manager's maybe felt as though there's been a question over his authority there. I'm not sure, but you would want to go and iron it out and then get him back in the team.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be an interesting weekend because obviously over the next couple of days, Ruffy, certainly beyond Wednesday, we're going to get, some information coming out on what the Celtic board are going to respond again to this real unrest. And then you're obviously going to get the evidence that you can't deny, which is when you're watching games, the Rangers fans will be looking and saying, okay, 4 draws, not happy with that. We're not in the Champions League. And they'll be saying to themselves, we want to see improvement, we want to see a real challenge for this league, and you better get this team playing quickly.
Yeah, you better get them winning quickly. I think winning is the main thing. Everybody says, even though it's 1-0, they don't care about the performance. It's just about the win and the 3 points, and that's what the fans will be looking at just now. Anything on the opposite side of that is going to be a negative. I do think in the next 2 or 3 weeks we're going to have banners all over the place. We're going to have protests at games, and it'll be interesting to see who they're directing it at.
You couldn't make it up. Scottish football just keeps on giving, Tam, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
listen, I'm all for it, Peter. I'm bored Celtic win the league with 25 points every season. There's been no competition at all in the last 2 or 3 seasons. Rangers got themselves in a position last season under Philip Clement and then bottled it for me. This season, it remains to be seen if they're really going to go and improve and put it up to Celtic. But I think when you look at the business that Celtic have done in this window and the business that Rangers done, surely they've got to get closer to Celtic. But again, this game against Hearts at the weekend is a big barometer for Rangers. If Rangers go and turn them over with their new signings and they score, Miovski and the boy Chermiti scores and they win 3 or 4-0, whole place is up again, right? We can go and put it to Celtic. Celtic go and win and Rangers draw. Then you're just thinking, well, it's just going to be the same old things. But it's really going to, this weekend, Peter, for me, is going to tell you a lot how the rest of the season will go.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, we've released, now that the transfer window has shut, we've released our predictions 1 to 12.
We have.
On who we think is going to win the league and who we think's going...
I can't believe Alison had Aberdeen in the bottom 2. I think Kenny Merchant's spot on, by the way. You're just an Aberdeen hater. Incredible.
You'll be able to see that right across our social media as well. Who do you think is going to be in the playoff place? Who's going to be relegated? And what about the top 6? Could you pick your top 6? It was a difficult process. There's a few surprises in there, Ali, to be perfectly honest with you.
Yep, there are 1 or 2 that will raise an eyebrow. But are we allowed to divulge, or are we?
No. I think they're out. I think they're out today and tomorrow. So it's a. Did you go for you went for the bog standard, didn't you? You're Mr.
Well, I had 5. 1 to 5 was easy. It was a 6 and 7. I was a wee bit anxious about.
Yeah, there's no point in this, obviously, and again, I must mention this. The Scotland game in any great depth, because obviously by the time the programme goes out, then it becomes totally and utterly obsolete as a programme, because Scotland are playing on the Monday night. But I do think, time to reflect on Denmark. I think he deserves some credit, because I thought they created chances, Tam, and I thought they defended well. I thought Hanley was magnificent, but I'm not having Dykes. He's got to score that chance, Tam.
Peter, we need a number 9, man. We need a striker. We're hanging our hat on Kieran Bowie a little bit. I was disappointed that he didn't play or come on, Peter.
We knew he wouldn't play.
Yeah, let's hope he plays tonight. I mean, I think they will refresh the team. I think you've got to go and refresh the team tonight against Belarus and play some of these guys, Billy Gilmer, Ben Gannon Doak. You've got to refresh the team. But I think if you're a Scotland fan, you go to Denmark and they offers you 0-0 before the game, bite your hand off. It's going to be for me. Every team will beat Belarus, Peter. So it's going to be the head-to-heads with Greece and Denmark. And Greece had a great result the other night. They play Denmark, I think, tonight as well. So if you can go and beat them, you're sitting in 4 points. You're off to a good start. But I think
a draw, Greece and Denmark.
Yeah, I think a draw is a good result for us. Yeah. We sit in 4 points, and we've got from 2 away games, so that would be a big start for us. But we've seen this before. Let's hope it's not the old Scotland, Peter. We're going to Georgia and we think we're going to win and we get beaten. Let's hope we can get a couple of early goals and cruise the game. But it's a must-win game for Scotland.
Listen, you've got to give credit where credit's due. I thought Hanley, he was at every block. That was his best game.
Man, suit all the 2 of them.
Yeah, I thought the 2 of them were suit. Yeah, absolutely. I thought the 2 of them. When you think of roughly the times that we were watching Scotland and covering the games, and the centre halves couldn't defend, but to their credit, they were well organised, and we wanted them to create chances, and they did create chances.
Yeah, they did, and I was pleased that he played 2 up front. That's a positive. That's something we haven't seen for a long time. As Tam said, if you'd offered us a point before the game, we would have taken it. I would have liked us to score a goal, which would have been encouraging. But not to get away from the game. I still don't think Denmark are the problem. I think it's Greece. I think Greece are the team over the 2 games will decide whether we're coming out of this or not. I wasn't that scared of Denmark at all. I thought they played a typical British game, which suited us, And I credit to the manager, when he sets his stall out like that, he generally gets the result you want. I just think we need to be a wee bit braver. In certain games, I think we need to show that we're going to take you on. We're not just going to come and get a point. We're going to come
I thought if there was a wee bit of conviction about Friday night, you might have left 3 points.
They could have brought Doak and Hurst. or Bowie on earlier, Peter.
Yeah.
I think 65. I mean, you've seen Big Dykes going through. He's not played a lot of football. He's deep sea diving boots on, going through there. Cuba Gooding Juniors in that film.
5K.
Yeah, with all
Man of honour, but he couldn't run.
Absolutely, Ali. With all due respect, I have to say, Ruffy, I was swearing at the television. I mean, honestly.
Don't take another touch. Please don't take
got to hit
another
it first
touch.
time,
Just touch
surely.
it and hit it.
Just not what?
Doesn't he hit it?
Did he take a touch?
But
Perfectly weighted across
He's
him.
a number 9, Ruffy. He can't
He's
score
not
goals.
that, but he's a bustling number 9. He's
What's
no
a, no, wait a minute.
finesse. He's
What's
not
a
got
bustling
any.
number 9? Joe Jordan was a bustling number 9, but he scored goals.
Yeah, but most of it was his header.
He can't score goals. What you
I
on
know,
about?
that's what I'm saying. That's a disappointing thing if we had a striker.
Joe Jordan scored with his boot against Iran. He scored with his boot against Peru. He scored with his boot.
I know, but he's a different kind of striker.
Well, he scores
the kind of
goals.
striker I'm talking about. If I'm talking about a prolific, nippy striker who is going to take a chance.
Striker worth of salt, Ruffy hits that first time. For God's sake, he's in goal.
Well, let's ask one.
Right.
Got to hit it first time.
Thanks, Tom.
No, I wasn't asking you. I was just asking if we knew. On you go.
Everybody's come out with one already.
Got to give him one.
That's very good for
He's
Ruffy.
absolutely
On you go. No, honestly, what would you have done?
Don't try to come in
Hit
with
it.
it. You call me a dud.
Would you try to get away from the
No, but
defender?
it weighted perfectly across him on his right foot. He's just got to hit that first time. He's about 18 yards out. Just have a strike at goal, because as soon as you take a touch, the defender's getting back in, and that was the opportunity for us. We're waiting in one. You maybe get one chance against a team like Denmark, and that was it.
He doesn't even need to check his run.
No, it was right in his path. It was a lovely ball. I don't know who played the pass into him, but it might have been Louis Ferguson, but great pass. He's got to shoot. I think he was just blowing at his backside at that point, to be fair.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Ali, I was effing and being.
No, I think it was the best chance. Like Tam says, you're only going to get maybe one big chance, and I think you could feel the sense of deflation in the aftermath of that. I think yourself as a team that there's maybe not going to be another opportunity like that. I do think with a wee bit more of a courageous approach, a wee bit of bravery, and I do think with a point, coming away from Denmark with a point, if you have to finish by tomorrow morning with 4 points from your first 2 games, everyone would accept it, but with a bit of conviction, I think you might have got 3 on Friday night.
Yeah, listen, fingers crossed that we are in a situation where, I like this as we're getting close to the end of the programme, but Bundle says, I'd have scored at Peter. And also, over and above that, so somebody's not having you. Ruffy's told you to away and play bowls, but nevertheless,
Trophies at the weekend.
I think. Can I just say to you, did you win
2 trophies. I won 2 out of 3.
Yeah.
I'll show you the photos.
It must have been the mixed doubles.
Ruffy.
Maggie carrying you.
No, we get knocked
Ruffy,
out.
did I look bored? Don't show me the photos.
Don't you start.
You know what I mean?
You still brought them in.
I will. I'll post them. I will.
By the way, you want me to tell you better than that? I mean, this is Ali and I have had a chat. We discussed things on Friday, and I thought, okay, we've got to start this, the big battle. So Ali's done 5K, and I went out for the first time since the resurfacing, Ruffy, for a long run, and 3K, and I was breathing out of my back end. I mean, it was painful, to say the least.
Yeah, well, as I was telling Tam, I know you might think bowls is a very slow game. I played for 6 hours yesterday.
So it is slow.
You just walk up and down the thing, do you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Just for 6 hours.
And
But how far's it? How far's the bowling thing?
do you want me to tell you what happens, Tom?
100 yards? Not even
Yeah.
that? 50 yards?
Tom, what happens is they throw the ball, right?
I know, 50 yards away.
And then
30 yards.
they watch for 25 seconds till it gets there. They have a look at it, and then what happens is one of the players looks round, and the guy he's playing hasn't made it to his shot, and a stretcher comes on and takes that person off, and then there's a
You're
replacement.
going to get
There's a replacement.
You're
Who's
going to
104 years of age, and they come on and finish the
The
game.
best thing about bowls is the last bit where they're all the balls are sitting and you just go and smash them all.
That's a technique.
Yeah,
Is
absolutely.
that
It's a skill, not my
Aye.
skill. I'm more finesse.
right?
Yeah.
No.
I'd like that, just rattling them all.
Yeah. Anyway, Ruffy, the good news is Ali and I head to head, 6th of October, the big run.
what are you doing?
Sunday, 5K head to head, which is it's going to be fantastic. What do you
What
think?
time are you doing 5K now?
I don't want to say.
38 minutes.
By the way,
40 minutes.
Ali's a stick on, surely.
40.
Sure, honestly, I agree with you.
More than
Absolute
40.
certainty, Ali.
She just sent me a text. She sent me a text, Ruffy, and she said, "Get the wine chilled. I want it chilled." I'm saying to myself, well, listen, I'm easily.
He does a 5k with one of the hats with the straws and that. And the beer and he just...
I'm 4 stone heavier than her and 10 years older than her. It's a sticky one. She's going to win.
must come to see that. Where's this happening?
We're doing it individually.
Oh, he's not doing it against each
You're
other.
together, you think together.
You're going to
Get the PLZ jacket on.
Yeah.
Yeah, darling.
Jacket's too hot.
Yeah. It's, I can't wait. Anyway, listen, over and above all we've been talking about, give us your thoughts on it. I must just read out this one, which caught my eye, from Don Clark, who says, "Here's my 12. Celtic first, Rangers second, Hibs third, Hearts fourth, St Mirren fifth in the top 6 again. And he's gone for Aberdeen in 6th place, Motherwell 7th, Dundee United 8th, 9 Kilmarnock, 10 Livingston, 11 Dundee and 12 Falkirk." What do you make of that, Ruffy?
Dundee United one might throw that one out of the window.
Yeah.
I think they'll be higher than 8th.
Yeah, I think they'll be higher.
They look decent this year.
Yeah, it's not a bad
Bar
shout.
that, there's no... He's bottom 4, I'd probably agree with. Maybe switch Falkirk to second bottom, Dundee bottom.
Yeah.
Bar that, he's pretty good for Don there.
Yeah, absolutely. Don, thanks for that. Give us your thoughts. 1 to 12, who's getting relegated? Who's in the playoff? What about that top 6? Can you pick it? Is there going to be an upset? Has anybody...
By the way, Peter, can I just say that you know, I like to keep my eyes on the odds and all that. Hearts are only 10 to 1 to win the league. It's the lowest odds they've been in 37 years
Yeah.
to win the league this season.
Is that right? I know I'm asking you out of left field just as we're about to finish, but is there odds in them splitting the Old Firm?
Probably is. I've not seen them, but
Right.
there probably will be. But they're only 10 to 1 to win the league, which is astonishing.
Incredible. Thank you to you for, of course, sticking with us. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Monday to Friday, the football show is absolutely free. If you want PLZ Premium, you can subscribe on our YouTube channel to that. You'll get competitions, giveaways. We're sending out lots of prizes as well, and a chance for you to get early access to a lot of our content and our unique content. There's a lot of it coming up. Thanks to Ruffy, thanks to Ali, and to Tam McManus, and thanks to you for watching.